and the word of the day is friendships.
It has been interesting moving a lot, the friendship aspect of it, and having all these different ebbs and flows of locations and life interests, how the friendships kind of ebb and flow in a way that I don't think would have if I didn't move away.
So we both, I think, have that bug, but yours was to take on life in different places, and mine was lived through work experiences and getting to experience a city and for weeks at a time while I was doing casting and production. I think from different generations, we approach friendships differently.
Okay. I think with like the younger with the phones, technology, social media, you don't necessarily need to keep up with your friends as much. Like, I think it's a bad thing that you don't feel like you need to keep up with your friends as much because you're seeing your friends on social media essentially, or you're seeing their life updates through social media.
Because of lack of technology in my youth, I think friendships are different and were developed differently than in your generation. Hello, Julie.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Long time no see.
I know.
Aw.
It's weird it's 2 weeks until the wedding.
I know.
So I'll be home.
Oh, I can't wait.
By the time this comes out in like
my God.
It'll be like a week. It's so weird.
That is awesome. I'm actually really looking forward to it. It seems at first like it was taking too long to come, and now it's going to be here in a minute. And I'm so excited for wedding bells. Woo!
It's crazy.
Yay.
It's very exciting.
It is. It is. Well, it's good to see you. I hope you had a good week.
Yeah, it was a good week.
Yeah,
we both did some traveling.
We both traveled. This was a good week for us. We went to Tom and I went to Puerto Rico. We had a fun time. It was really, really good and needed. Just some decompression time with no obligations. Felt really good. It's really nice. You know what I find from traveling? I used to love sitting on a beach, and now I much prefer to do an adventure. So we had planned to be somewhat chill. So we've had, we'll do a beach day, and we're going to rent a car, and we'll do a car, like drive the island day. And I was so regretting that we didn't do more of the exploring the island, because that turned out to be my favorite day of all. And I really want to work that into future trips, be more, I think, more particular about doing adventures. It was fun.
That's good. I think
your trip was fun.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you need to always bake in some like relaxing time because you don't want to get home from the vacation and then be like exhausted from the vacation.
Yes, true. True.
And I know you just have, I don't know, fountains of energy. That doesn't really matter, but
I'm like in go mode when I'm on vacation. I just want to go. I'm like, let's go. But we did rest a lot. So it's strange because I felt like I got so much rest. We were relaxing on a beach one day. I got a lot of sleep at night. There was no rush to get up in the morning for anything. So I really did get a lot of sleep, which was helpful. I think I needed that. But I do love my adventure day. I like the day that I popped on a scooter by myself when I had my day when Dad went to the meeting. So I had some time to myself and got on a scooter. It was fun. Yeah, I love to travel. I really want to travel more. I wish I could bake it in more to my life.
Should we just talk about that for the episode instead of our topic?
I don't know. We could, but I don't know if we have enough depth in that one. I liked our topic that we picked. And I think our topic that we picked is somewhat timely on a lot of levels. So I say, let's just keep going with our topic because I think we'll learn a lot from it. And I think our listeners will learn a lot from our different ways of approaching. And the word of the day is friendships. Making friends. What do we consider in friendships? How much, I want to say, effort do we put into friendships? All of those things. And I would love to talk about it because I think from different generations, we approach friendships differently. And we have different, because of lack of technology in my youth, I think friendships are different and were developed differently than in your generation. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Good.
Want me to elaborate?
I do.
Okay. Well, did you have a question? Sorry.
I was just going to ask you how you think it's different from your perspective about friendships then and friendships now. Do you have any insights on that?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
I think with like the younger with the phones, technology, social media, you don't necessarily need to keep up with your friends as much. Like I think it's a bad thing that you don't feel like you need to keep up with your friends as much because you're seeing your friends on social media
Mm.
essentially, or you're seeing their life updates through social media, like those kinds of things where you don't necessarily feel like you don't feel the pressure to not the pressure, but or maybe you just forget to actually check in with people and see what's going on in their
Yes.
life
In their
because
life.
or maintain a friendship because you can just see what's happening in their life from afar.
And this
And
is
found it pretty
that's really
interesting.
true.
And as someone who posts on social media a lot, I feel like a lot of my friends from different eras of my life probably feel like they know a lot about what's going on in my life because I'm always posting, you're always posting, etc. But then it's on the other hand, it's like I don't really know what's going on with their life. They only post like
Ah,
once every month of like they went out, they had a birthday, they had an anniversary. So it's
so true.
definitely different.
Uh, yeah, that's a really good point, especially because it's funny you're saying like your generation, but I think that in this era of my life, I'm in the same situation as you. People in my
Mm-hmm.
life, they always know what's going on with me, and I don't have the same day-to-day knowledge of what's going on in their life, but they have. So that's
Well,
somewhat of an interesting thing, but
what I feel like, but though with your like high school friends, for example, like you guys still have Christmas party every year,
mhm.
and you guys are still pretty heavily involved in each other's lives. And I think it's because you guys all made an effort to stay in touch after high school, and staying in touch after high school after you went to high school looks different than staying in touch in my era. Staying in touch in my era is just following them on social media. Staying in touch when you got out of college was like writing letters, actually phone calls, actually visiting.
Yeah, that's very insightful. And it meant actually going to, like, I would get on a bus and go visit one of them at college. I mean, we literally had to
Yeah.
physically do things to make that contact.
And
And it was
then I
fun.
think, sorry, I feel like I'm coming out with all my hot points. For me, I've lived in New Jersey, Michigan, Chicago, and now LA. All my friends are like across the country. I don't necessarily live where all my friends are,
Oh my gosh.
whereas you stayed in the area where like all your friends are. So it's almost easy. It has its differences where
Yeah,
it's
it is
easier for
easier.
you
Yeah.
to hang out to go to these events for like Michelle and Kelly and everybody when it's an hour drive. Where now that I've slowly made my way, all my friends are scattered.
Yes. And you have some good friends from very far because of being an
Yes.
abroad. And so even places you didn't live, you have friends from, which is so
Mm-hmm.
interesting and so different. And I think that's basically a difference in how both of us had our youth happen. So your youth was
Mm-hmm.
okay, it was the same suburban youth, but then right after that high school experience, you were off. You were gone. It wasn't like back to home base, back to home base. So my thing was so centered on the home base. And I sometimes I wonder about that because I think that I'm a person that were I from a different potentially upbringing that was not so I won't say the word sheltered necessarily negatively, but I had a very sheltered life. And so there was no consideration in my mind that I would ever move across country. I mean, that would be devastating. My parents would have been like devastated if that happened. When I went to college in Connecticut, you think I was going to another planet to live. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
different type of upbringing that I experienced. And so therefore my reaction and my life has taken a different path for that. So I'm not blaming them that I didn't travel because I guess if I was that seriously passionate about it, maybe I would have just done it anyway. But I was traveling for work, so I was getting my travel fix. I was going to LA for weeks at a time for shoots. I was going to Amsterdam. I was going to London. I was in Italy. I was in Canada. So my travel took a different form. So we both, I think, have that bug, but yours was to take on life in different places. And mine was lived through work experiences and getting to experience a city and for weeks at a time while I was doing casting and production. And then, so it's a little different, but we both have the same bug. But I could not move. I would never have considered moving my home base ever, just because I think it would have been too devastating. I would have been, I would have been a scared, a scared. I would have been very scared to tell
Welcome.
anybody I was going to do that. Can you imagine?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I can. Because I was as
Picture it.
well.
Oh my gosh. Not because of me though.
No.
Mm.
No, mainly Tom.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. I wouldn't think that would be the case because of course he's
Well,
very
Dad had this
welcoming.
whole thing when I went to college. He was like,
Promise you'll
you
come
go to
home.
college in Michigan and you promise you'll come home. And then I didn't. And then you thought I was about to come back. And then I went even further. The
Oh my
no bait
gosh.
and switch.
I think he's very supportive of what you did and never was a question. It's like, do it, go do it, do it. There was
I know.
never anything like that. But I see what you're saying. I am more, this is happening. So then we roll with it. Would never think, oh, I have to help you change. I have to change your mind. That would never even come into my brain to let me figure out how to change your
Yeah.
mind to not, never. I can't even imagine having that thought. That's just not how my brain works.
Hmm.
And I don't know why, because I know, and there's probably people listening that would be, so upset that they'd feel they'd have to make sure you weighed it all out and thought about it all in a different way. And I've always trusted your instincts more than my own a lot of times because I don't know that I made the right choices. Maybe I should have moved to other cities and experienced other things. I don't know. So I don't know that now because I can't go back in time. But so I'm all power to you for living your life and trying different cities and experiencing different things. And I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
embrace.
I think, yeah.
But I think
I guess,
Tom also does. I just think the difference is maybe he would think, well, if you're going to settle down one day and have kids, we'd hope that we would be near enough. But even if I think about that, I would get my ass on a plane and stay with you for a month if when you I wouldn't even have a problem with it. I mean,
okay,
if it really came
not
to
there
that,
yet.
sorry, but I'm moving in for a month, Joel. Anyway, just so you know, just that we have
Okay.
that on the
I'll be
table.
prepared.
We have it on record, literally.
You have the receipts. Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
gosh, so funny.
Um, I was gonna say it has been interesting moving a lot, the friendship aspect of it, and
Mhm.
having all these different ebbs and flows of locations and life interests, how the friendships kind of ebb and flow in a way that I don't think would have if I didn't move
Yeah.
away.
Well, I think you've had the thing where you've had to make an effort to make friends because they're not built into your infrastructure
Yeah.
everywhere you go. It's not like you get there and you have a
No.
batch of friends suddenly. You have to make a plan to
Yeah.
make an effort, right?
Yes. You have to make a
Okay.
big effort. It's crazy. It is interesting because it's like making friends as an adult is really hard and really tough. It's not like college or even high school where you're in the same room with people for like 8 hours a day. And due to proximity and circumstances, you kind of just find your people. It's like you have to go out and put the
Yes,
effort in to find the people,
you do. Yeah.
which is a lot harder.
That's also heavily personality based, how quickly you warm up, how quickly you make friends, how much you're willing to
Yeah.
just put yourself out there in that way. When I was at that waterfall yesterday in the city and I went to see it and I was at the little cafe and I met this young girl, like she's probably your age, honestly. And as we were just talking about what we were ordering and the next thing you know, we were talking about so where are you from? And then she tells me Colombia. And I said, oh my gosh. And she says, we came to find out. So works for a travel agency in the city. And we were chatting about travel. And so I said, oh, Colombia, do you speak Spanish? So we was talking about Spanish a little bit. And she said, yes, she just moved here 3 weeks ago. And I said, oh my gosh, that's exciting. And I go, do you have any friends yet? And she said, no, and I'm going to a friend event tonight. And then she started to tell me about this thing in Chelsea where she went on, I don't know if it was an app or a website where you go and you pick an event and then they match you up with people who have similar interests. So it must be some kind of a friend
I've
meetup.
seen this.
And I was like,
I've been interested in
wow,
doing it. Yeah.
that was a big wow. And I thought it was cool because, and then I said to her, oh, we should get together again so I can practice Spanish. I could practice speaking Spanish with you. And then she said, yeah. And then I said, when you moved here, I go, oh, is your family still in Colombia? And then and she said, yeah. And I said, is your mom missing you? And she said, yeah. And then I was just like, oh, I can be your New York City mom. So we had like a little connection there. And I really was thinking like I could get together with this girl and hang out with her. I could speak
Mm-hmm.
Spanish with her, have lunch with her. It was completely nice connection. And I thought, she wasn't going to initiate that with me, but I was comfortable enough to, and I think it's partly confidence, age. If I was 25, would I have chatted up someone and then try to get together with them? I don't know. So I can't picture what that would have been like. I just know that I can do it now. And I don't know if it's just a
Mm-hmm.
personality driven thing or what. So what's your take on that? Do you think it's just like I've always been like that?
Yeah, I feel like partially because you're an extrovert, it's just in your nature to like do that. I think for me, when I'm meeting people and I sense a good vibe, then I will be more forward and
Hmm.
initiate hanging out. And I'm not afraid to like be a planner. That's my thing. So I'll do that. I think it is interesting, like all these like friend events that have been getting like more popular recently, which I think
Hmm.
is really nice because I feel like maybe I just wasn't aware of them, but I feel like all these like women walking meetups, like women
Yeah.
like
They
like
never
friend
used to
events
have
like
those.
no, that's definitely like a new thing, I feel like, right?
I think it's a helpful new thing too. It's a great way
Yeah.
to, because I
And
think,
I've gone to one or
how was
two.
it? Oh,
Gone to a few.
you've made some friends
It's
from them.
definitely like intimidating. Yeah, it's intimidating in the beginning because you're like, it's just so many people. And for me, it's how do I insert myself into like a conversation that's already happening, which is like my least favorite thing. I like hate walking up
Oh
to like a
my
group feeling
God.
like, hi.
Oh my God. It's so
And
funny.
I have to do that with comedy a lot. So it's definitely different. It's not
Yeah.
like my favorite, but because you're at this event, you know, okay, people are definitely going to be open to talking to a stranger
Yeah.
because they wouldn't have came here if they were
They
just going to
would.
hang out with their friends. So like
Exactly.
being able to start a conversation. A lot of times like when I've gone to events, I'll try and see someone like wearing something like I always like try and wear like a Michigan thing or like
Oh,
something
right.
that could potentially spark conversation for somebody else for
That's a great
or I don't
way to
know.
think about it. Really, to think of a
Yeah.
conversation starter that's that you're wearing. What a brilliant thing. That's a good
Yeah.
takeaway. That's a really good takeaway from
Or
this.
my other go-to one is like complimenting someone's piece of their outfit and like asking them where they got it
Good one.
is kind of also how I try and ease myself into a new person conversation.
Yeah, it's so good.
Those are my hacks as an introvert.
Good. I love the introvert hacks. I think they're going to be needed because I just everything of that nature just comes so second nature to me that I don't ever have to think about it ever. It doesn't
Yeah.
even come into my mind. What am I going to say? Who should I talk to? Never. Walk into an event.
Oh,
Totally. I can't even. It's so hard for I think an extrovert to picture what it's like to be an introvert. Just that it must be the opposite for you to be able to understand how it's not even a
yes.
piece of my thought.
I've seen so many funny TikToks about this recently, how it's like introverts are always forced to socialize, but extroverts, have you ever been forced to shut the fuck up for a minute and be with your own thoughts? And it's like
Thanks.
introverts always forced to be social, do this, do that. How about extroverts just sit with their own thoughts for a minute?
So
I
funny.
thought that was really
That's
funny.
great. I don't have a hard time with that either, but I mean, the minute someone's near me, I'm like socializing.
When are you like alone with your thoughts? You know, you're
Oh,
always like on your phone. Like you're never actually
all
like
right, true.
silent and doing nothing.
When I'm creating, so yesterday at the
Oh,
waterfall, same place, I'm going to say, at the waterfall, I was sitting there, I was planning, well, okay, I want to make some content here. So when I get creative, I go into my thoughts. I'm thinking of ideas, I'm picking music, I'm in my thoughts. I mean, maybe I'm in my thoughts and they're creative thoughts because of about the environment I'm in, but I wasn't like, I got to go talk to someone. I was immediately just thinking creatively. Didn't notice there were people there when I was filming. And when happened to look up, I was like, oh, this girl's watching me film this TikTok. And I thought it was funny. So that's
hmm.
why I started talking to her at the cafe. I said, yeah, she was watching me film, and I said, what'd you think, crazy lady filming something? And she goes, well, it's New York City. So she didn't really chalk it. She just chalked it up to crazy people in New York City.
It's
And I
funny.
was one of them. which is fine. Okay.
I was gonna say yes, that something I've noticed over the years in terms of me making friends is that I always somehow gravitate towards like older people.
Oh,
And I don't know if it's just because I feel like I'm a bit more mature for my, I've always been like more mature than my age
yes, that's for sure.
and like always feeling like I can hang out with Tommy's friends very comfortably, even though they're 7 years older. Hang out with like Jenna's friends, they're older, but it's like very comfortable. Whereas I feel like sometimes it's hard for me to find people my own age
Mm,
because I'm just at a I don't know, I'm just like a little bit more mature,
I would
which
agree
is
with that.
fine. And I don't want to be like, I'm so mature. But even recently with comedy, I've befriended like this group of older women, which I just
Oh,
think is
wow.
hilarious. They're all like Gen X women, and it's
I
so
love
funny.
that.
And I don't know if it's just because they have like a Helen vibe where they're like very extroverted and they're open to it. Like, I feel like because they're older, they don't have any of the self-consciousness of like people who are in their 20s
Yeah, so they're easier to
feeling
talk to.
worried about
Right,
things.
right.
They're a lot easier to talk to. So I just think it's funny that I've befriended like this group of older women
That's
in
so
comedy.
that is so funny. And meanwhile, I'm connecting with this girl who's like probably your age, and I'm gonna have
Yeah.
coffee with her. That's because
We're
I
having
tend to
the opposite.
I know I tend to connect with younger people, and I think partly with that is because my interests. Okay, this is not to say I don't. This is going to be a tricky one to say without like sounding like that I'm insulting anyone. But there's a lot of times that I am relating to younger people because I am on TikTok. I am watching things that are being seen by a younger audience, and I understand things that the younger audience is doing. So having that,
Mm,
I relate to them more in a weird way. So I will tend to gravitate towards someone younger because they're probably my interests align with theirs a bit. And I was going to say this before
mhm.
about how friendships evolve. So I want to just talk about that for a minute because
Yeah.
I do think this is such an interesting thing having such a tight friend group from high school that I'm still with now, and your friendships have to evolve. Like you have changed so much. It's like people get married and when they're teenage sweethearts, and then
Hmm.
they're totally different people when they're adults and they're still together, and that how that all works out. But this is the same kind of thing.
Hmm.
You have a friend group that you have a history with. And whatever that history is, it's like I was baton twirler with one of them on this, with two of them on the squad. Um, I hung out with one of them more in the younger grades, than the other one more in the high school and the college years, and we really had a bonding then. So all of them had different parts of my life where in this group, okay, they, but we have this base connection of this period of time. So as time passed, and then we all do different types of professions, and we got a little sidetracked with our kids. We stayed a little bit in touch, mostly in touch, but we're being moms and we're all navigating careers or jobs or whatever we're doing. And so a lot of times you might grow apart from these people, but you have this base core thing that happened. I think high school is a very defining time in life. There's something about it where those formative years, whether it's grammar school, middle school, high school, there's things that happen there that are core times are created. It's weird. It's like in printing type of thing. Because no matter
Hmm.
how my beliefs might be different than my friends, or my views might be different on certain things, the history trumps all those things. Like it takes precedent on all those things. And so all of those things I could put to the side and not consider in the friendship.
Hmm.
And I don't know that people now, I think it's so based on a bucket list of commonalities, or a list of, what do you call it when it's like the checklist of the things you want in a friendship? Like it's more thoughtful about what
Yeah.
you want in a friend. And you would never hang out with someone that didn't believe the same as you on this topic or that topic. But whereas my friend group, it's all over the map on the topics. And
Hmm.
it's still like none of that stuff matters because we have this other thing that goes deeper. And I think that's an important point is generationally different.
Yeah, because I don't think that happens in my generation
I
anymore.
don't think so. I
If
don't.
someone's like, if someone has differing beliefs, I think I don't even know how to say it. 'Cause it's not like I don't want to.
You don't want to bring up, say, politics
throw
or something
anybody
like
under the
that.
bus. Yeah,
Right, right.
politics. But it's like
Yeah.
there are a few political issues where I'm just like, if you don't support this, like I
It's a
don't
hard
want to
pass.
talk to
I
you.
don't even want to talk
And I
to you. Yeah.
don't think your generation really has that, but I do. And I think maybe this will change things for the better. I don't really know. It's definitely like, yes, can you see past people's political beliefs or whatever? I don't even know what I'm trying to say,
Oh, I know
but
what you're trying to say. You're making a really good point of it because I have to say that this is such an interesting point. I'm so glad because I wanted to talk about it and figure out how to address it in a way because it's a different type of what the friendship was built on. And
yeah.
so at this point, the people you encounter tend to, even now, me, when I make new friends at this point in my life, they tend to be more with similar beliefs or similar ideologies, let's say, or um, maybe in the same career zone
Hmm.
or so, whatever it is. But the history in friendships that were made at a different period, those things are not a consideration and they don't
Yeah.
factor into I'm going to all of a sudden not be friends with this person because we grew into different ways of thinking. And so, but because we have this base that was already made, it's like the roots
Hmm.
were already grown.
Planted.
And
Yeah.
so I do think it's different. And I
I
don't
did
think
see
it's
it.
one's bad versus the other. I just think
Yeah.
it's different.
I saw a TikTok the other day of this girl who like moved to Florida and then she was talking to us. It's been harder as like a liberal to like make friends in Florida and that she met a girl that she liked and then this girl invited her to like watch wrestling or something and she's like, it's not like my favorite thing to watch, but I was gonna be open-minded. And then they're talking about how during the UFC thing, they started like chanting like USA and like Trump things, and the girl was like, "That made me like that was disappointing," so I left. And she got so many hate comments of people being
Oh,
like, "You're so sensitive," like, "Oh my God," like deal with it, kind of all those kinds of things. And I think there's two things. It's different when you already have like roots planted with someone where you guys have been friends for a really long time and no matter like what your beliefs you kind of guys are friends, whereas like when you're trying to make new friends,
mm,
you're trying to find the commonalities, the similarities, the things that you
absolutely.
can relate to. So it's like, why would you want to start a friendship with someone who has completely different ideas and
Yeah,
beliefs than you if you're just going to be
exactly.
fighting versus you guys were friends from like childhood. You guys weren't talking about politics when you were like 12.
No, didn't
So
even know
that
what the
wasn't like a
politics
part of like your base. But as an adult, that you're a fully formed human, you have thoughts, opinions. So when you're trying to make friends, I think that aspect is like more important because you're more coherent about the issues you're passionate about.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. I think
I
it's
just feel
so,
like I'm rambling.
no, you're not. You're making a really good point because, and you always have good insights with this kind of thing. But it's the same when I meet new people now. And I tend to, of course, gravitate towards people that I work with that I'm friendly with because, and then now I'm meeting people on social media that are becoming friends. Some of them are becoming friends in real life. So there's lots of different ways relationships have changed. If I think back to living in the suburbs, and there's so many women that, I mean, you could say friends or acquaintances, but they're like, I was very open to welcoming and anyone in.
I also think this political, you know, differences in friendships is definitely a more recent thing. Whereas like 15 years ago,
Oh,
if you guys had
yes.
different political beliefs, you probably wouldn't really care. Whereas like clearly things have been very radicalized recently.
Yes.
So there's almost like this assumption that it's like, oh, if you support this certain thing, then you must believe all the other crazy shit. And it's just more
Yeah.
hostile. Whereas I'm guessing like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a Republican and a Democrat could happily be friends and it wouldn't really even, no one would really care.
Right. I
But
don't
now
remember
it's
even
just,
knowing one way, like
yeah.
knowing or caring. And I think that is a huge insight that you have just raised, which is that's only been a recent thing that politics was even a thing. And I know politics was always around and that whole liberals and Democrats were always fight. I mean, sorry, liberals and Republicans, whatever. Everybody was always at odds because I can remember my parents being at a thing and talking one way or another about a relative who had a different beliefs than them. So I know it was there, but it was
Yeah.
never as like you said, hostile, or it didn't. matter as much to a day to day. It wasn't talked about so much. It wasn't so present. And I do think that's a big change. And I think
Hmm.
it's huge. So I agree with you. When you're trying to make friends, like what's at this point, you want to have friends that at least are in the zone of who you want to hang out with that have similar beliefs as you. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about friends like evolving? You know, this whole thing that went on, oh my God, it was trending on the social media, like breaking up with your friends, like having that,
Mm,
like when the friend breakups, you know, that trend that was happening where people
yeah.
were talking
Well,
about
I
the
know
friend
like
breakups. What's your take?
friendships ebb and flow. And it's, I don't know, I think I can't remember where I saw this certain thing. I don't really know, but I think they just ebb and flow based on who you are and where you are at your life. And totally understand like a friendship breakup if you're not, if you've kind of come to realize this person isn't beneficial. Like, not even that, like, a friend needs to provide something for you for it to be
Right.
beneficial.
Doesn't
But
need
even
to
just
add
like
value.
mutually, yeah, it doesn't need, yeah, you don't need to like profit or whatever
Right.
off a friend. But I think
It
they
has to
ebb
be
and
a give
flow.
and
And I think,
take.
yeah, I think it ebbs and flows. I It ebbs and flows. That's like the best way I can
Mm-hmm.
describe it. And it just depends on like where you are in your life. Like, I
Mm.
like can't find the words, but basically, I also just have a hard time with like, I want to put in the same amount of effort that I'm getting in
Mm-hmm.
return because I like
Yeah.
for friendships to feel like equal amount of effort. If I'm constantly reaching out and I'm constantly the one initiating plans and doesn't really feel as
Yeah.
like, oh, well,
Mutual.
then they
Mutual.
don't really want to hang out. They're not really
Right.
thinking
Right.
of me. Then there are other people who like I feel like I'm so friendly with and so close with that I don't really care if they don't reach out. I'm like, why are you not responding? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
why? Like, give me an update. Like, we need to be in touch more. And that's the thing when you have like friends you can be open and honest with. You can say like, hey, we haven't been keeping in touch as much recently. I would like for that to change and would like to talk more. Steve and I were literally just talking about this weekend.
Yeah,
So,
well, there's also a thing where, you know, each in a friend group or in a friendship, like there's roles that get assumed.
mm-hmm,
You know, some just like a relationship, sometimes one person's more of the romantic one, or one person's more of the planner, and one person's more of the like roll with it. And so we all do have in our friends sit in our friendships, we do have roles that we somehow assume.
mm-hmm,
It's funny because it's just like that corporate joke where it was like, who's the personality hire versus, you know, they had like all the different
mm-hmm,
hires and it was like the people in the company, they all had certain roles. I kind of loved that insight of just thinking, oh, yeah, there is that. So in the same way, there's friendships, but friendships have like, who's the one that's always making people laugh? Who's the one that's always the planner? Who's the one that's the wild one? You do kind of have that it's an automatic thing, but it's usually set again. It's like balances itself out somehow. It's not one person being more than the
yeah.
rest.
I will say since like starting comedy and now having more like comedy friends, I will say, mm, hanging out with them is like very fun, even though I've known them far less than a lot of
Oh,
other people who I'm more closer with.
yeah.
It's just, and Steve and I have talked about this, like the guys that I write with, we've gotten closer because I think we all started writing jokes about things that have happened to us and it just got
You
like
get to know
puts the
each other
things
that
out there
way.
in the open. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when you hang out, it's just like shooting the shit and it's funny and everyone no one really feels like embarrassed to say a weird thought because we've all already discussed our weird thoughts when trying to figure out a joke. So it has made things definitely like more funny. Like I feel like I laugh exponentially more when I'm hanging out with like comedy friends versus non-comedy
But you're right. Yeah,
friends.
yeah. I could see that.
And it's not that I would prefer one or the other. It's just it's like it's interesting how different it is.
Yeah, different the vibes are. Yeah. It's funny too, because I think that depending on what your friendship's made of is what the conversation tends to be. So I'll even go to my poor friends if they're listening, but when it's a high school friend group, a lot of times the conversation is about things about that, like about high school or
Mm-hmm.
about high school people or about something. And there's times that where I don't necessarily want to talk about that with them. Like I would love to not talk about that with them. And it's a weird thing, and I think I just have to accept that that's what that friendship is. And when I'm on one-on-one with any of them, it's not like that at all. When it's
Yeah.
a one-on-one conversation, it's only when it's a group that it changes. So the dynamics are very different in the way I see it when it's all each one of those people in a one-on-one versus in a group. That's a totally different dynamic.
I feel like we can start to wrap it up, but I have one last thought.
Okay.
Unless you want to keep going. I thought we
No,
were
you could tell me. What's your thought?
um that it's been interesting that I feel like T Swift has been a big reason that I've been able to connect more with friends in a weird way.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned her because I pulled up a video this morning of hers, and now I now wasn't going to mention it, but now I'm going to. So I love that she has impacted you in that way. And reason I was watching this video, I looked for it purposely because I wanted to make sure I had remembered it exactly right. It's when
Mm-hmm.
something goes awry in a friendship, and it's like, how do we move on from that? Okay. So it has to do with the topic is forgiveness. And I will tell you the most interesting thing, and this really depends on what your situation is. So, but I'm going to put it out there because this is the quote, and I thought it was so interesting because it was about whether when something is done that's so completely off the rails and crazy, and something happens that's just blindsidingly weird from someone that you think and or you think is a friend. The concept is that you're supposed to forgive and forget and
Mm-hmm.
move on. And that's the only way to move on, that you have to forgive and forget. And the Taylor Swift quote, the Queen, has this quote where she says, "You don't have to forgive and you don't have to forget. You don't have to do either one of those things. You can just move on." And that is quite brilliant because for really, I saved it. Now I have it in my phone for whenever I want to refer to it because here's why it's brilliant. We sometimes have to it's not because I don't believe in forgiveness, because I surely do, but and I think it's important to be able to forgive and move on from things. And I'm sure I have, because half the times I can't even remember sometimes if I get annoyed at dad or Tom. I'm like, I don't remember why I was annoyed yesterday because I've moved on, whatever. I'm a big forgiver and forgetter. I don't even know. But if certain times where you say, okay, situation, okay, I'm not going to be the fool again and again and again. And you don't have to necessarily forgive and forget. You can just say, all right, that happened, that person, whatever happened there, I'm going to just move forward. But I don't have to sit here and force myself to forgive that thing and forget that thing, because it's always going to be there. Those things are always going to be there. When something happens where it's like, true, don't you think? What's your take on that?
I just so in like you've
Intrigued by
come so far. Because I feel like all growing up, you'd always be like, give them another chance, like forgive them, like always give people benefit of the doubt. And that's always like been with me,
mm,
giving people benefit of the doubt. But I do have Tom and me who can get a vibe from people, and like I can suss people out within like the first 2 minutes of meeting them,
you've
and kind of.
yeah.
But I always, because of you, I've always given people the benefit of the doubt. Even if I get a bad vibe, I will give them a chance. And I've kind of always had that similar
Aw,
mentality. What?
that's nice that you you got that from me a little. But I
Yes.
do.
But then it's
That's my
burned me.
clearly it's burned me too, which is why I pulled up the T Swift quote.
Yeah. And I think it's a great quote because as friends are supposed to like make your life richer, not make your life miserable. So if
Yes.
something happens, then
Yes.
you shouldn't feel obligated to people who have repeatedly made you feel shitty.
Yes, it's so well said. Because it's also about respecting yourself. You wouldn't stay in a
And
relationship that was shitty, that was where you were
I
getting, yelled at or something like that. And for the record, for anybody listening, this has nothing to do with any of you. It's just a
yeah,
subject I wanted to address. But
but
I just think that it's so um we have to take care of ourselves too. Because I'm a very much like worrying about the person's feelings and making sure this person doesn't feel this and that. And I'm always caring about other people's feelings. It's just the nature of who I am. When I'm at a shoot and someone comes in and I could tell this person's uncomfortable, I right away go over. I want to make them feel welcome. It is who I am. It is who I am.
Hmm.
So I am a big believer in yes, giving people the benefit of the doubt. I've done it my whole life. I've taught it to you, obviously, without even knowing. Whoops. But yeah, no, in a way, that's a good thing. And I'm glad that I did. But there are times where even I have to say to myself, okay, I would not stay in an abusive relationship. I wouldn't say there's a line that can be crossed where, and then you can learn, okay, that's the line. And okay, I don't have to be okay with this.
Yeah,
And
I've really mended the Tom and Helen philosophies into my being
you've
of
blended
giving
them.
people the benefit of the doubt, but as soon as they wrong me, it's like you're done. You're done.
You're dead to me.
But I'll still be nice. I had an encounter this week with someone who's not my favorite, and
Right.
I was still nothing but sweet and
Right.
polite, and it's fine.
Yes. Yes. It's so funny how we both have had similar things happen in the same timeline. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a learning experience when those things happen. And and I'm telling you, I think that social media has been helpful for me for these types of things because it's helped me open my eyes to another way of thinking about it. Instead
Yeah.
of, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong. Like I was raised to think it was always me that was wrong, or it was always something I did. And that's a very tough thing to undo in your wiring. It's really hard. I'm going to tell you that. It's because even in my moment of knowing when something's going awry and I know this is not me, this is definitely coming from another place for someone else, I still for a minute there go, oh, what did I do to make this happen? What did I do? I'm like, that's nutty that I'm thinking that, but that's my upbringing. And
Hmm.
so it's hard to undo that. Really tough. Sigh.
All
Big
right.
sigh.
Ending on that.
I want to end on a happy note. Anyway, I do. I want to end on a happy note because
Okay,
I
well,
do
let's
think
let's think of the
friends
happy
are,
note.
yeah, the happy note is that friendship is such an important part of how we connect with people. It's an important part of, oh, I don't know, what makes us, because you can't just be closed in your little box and say, oh, I'm in this relationship, in this relationship, I'm going to keep my doors closed, I'm keep myself safe. We have to put ourselves out there and accept risk that sometimes you're going to take this chance, you're going to make some friends, you're going to see what this brings, and it could be very, very enriching. I have met so many amazing people that were there for me during even craziest times where I didn't even think that these people were my friends, and suddenly they came out of the woodwork. So listen, I am a proponent of love and friendship in such a positive way. So I really hope that you take on more opportunities to make new friends. Maybe you can make some friends that end up moving back to the East Coast so you can come back to.
You
Let's
sound
end
like
on
Tom.
you. Let's end on you moving back to the East Coast.
Oh, goodness. Full circle.
Full circle. But I like being bi-coastal, so I'm okay. So you don't have to come back soon. Live your life. Enjoy. Anyway,
Okay.
what's up for this week? Do you have any comedy things planned before we leave? Let me find out your schedule. What are you doing?
Is this going to be in the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have an
Um,
open mic coming up?
I have a show on Tuesday.
Oh, is that the one
Yeah.
you've organized?
No, but I
Oh,
am organizing the show. I'll probably share that more next week.
good. Oh, I can't wait. I saw your graphic, so I'm very excited about seeing more on that. Next time, maybe we'll do a little comedy update so we can hear what the new thing is and how your brand
We
is
should do
changing
that.
in terms of your shows. Excellent.
Yeah,
Well, this
that'll
was
be
a good
next
catch
week.
up. This was a good catch up, and I mean, we covered a lot of things. We went deep, I think. Maybe a little
We
too
did.
deep. Maybe we went too deep and dark. But let me tell you the part that'll end and make me cry is that my friends, aside from family, when things were dark and sad and scary, they were there for me. Yes. Don't put this in a teaser, Stephen. Poor Por favor, no crying in the teasers. But seriously, to my friends listening, you were there for me and I appreciate you so much. Okay, yours truly.
Helen and Julie.
If you enjoyed today's podcast before the tears were shed, please leave us a little review. Oh, I'm just kidding. Just visit us on all our social medias and come and say hi. And we have new things happening on our website for Socialize, so you can check that out too, hellosocialize.com. And don't forget to look for me and Julie on our socials at The Mothership with a U and at Julie Polisi. And we'll see you next week where the topic will not be quite as heavy. Let's keep it light.
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye.